Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
A woman came home to find her husband in the kitchen, shaking frantically, almost in a dancing frenzy, with some kind of wire running from his waist towards the electric kettle on the stove. Intending to jolt him away from the deadly current, she whacked him with a handy plank of wood, breaking his arm in 2 places. Up to that moment, he had been happily listening to his Walkman. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Come on, call in. Good morning. Oh, good morning. What a day. Look outside at this beautiful morning. Thank you, Lord. What a wonderful day. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Contact them today, 734-6969. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello there, birthday boy. How are you?
I'm rottener than rotten this morning.
All right. Let's have the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, under one nation, God. Excuse me. I'm all subbed up. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No.
Don't you worry about that. You had too much cake and ice cream yesterday.
Too much.
All right, buddy. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Nice people right there. And everybody gets messed up occasionally on, a lot of the professional singers on our national anthem. And, boy, I tell you what, some of them have made some horrendous mistakes. Good morning, everybody. It is time for the weather, and the weather's brought to you by our dear friends at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. I've got a whole bunch of things to tell you about. You know what? Use what you already have to decorate. You might have wicker baskets there. You might have slip covers. You might have all kinds of items, different paintings up in the attic. You could change things around, and really somebody will walk in the house and say, holy cow, is this the same house? Well, whatever you need to make your house a home, carpet, flooring, kitchen construction, home decor items, all of this with Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Right now, here's the lovely Gina with the weather.
Looks like sunny skies for today, and it's going to be nice. Slightly breezy winds out of the west, right around 8 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 71. Tonight, a low of 42. Tomorrow, sunny, a little bit on the breezy side, high of 76 with an overnight low of 45. Winds kicking up out of the southeast to about 10 to 15 miles an hour for Thursday and Friday. Under partly cloudy skies, high of 80 with overnight lows in the mid to upper 40s. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Well done, Gina. Thank you. Brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. And they're located at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Give them a call at 678-6945. Great folks. Hey, by the way, don't forget Thursday is sale day at the sale that works for you. That's the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Merv May, K. Draghi, Lance Udy for consignment information or sale information. Call them at 678-9411. 10:30 starting time. Burley Livestock Sale Yard on Thursdays. Don't you miss it. Good morning to everybody. We have got a jam-packed good program today. Holy cow, we got Frosty Woolridge at 9:06. And then we're going to be talking about educational issues and some of the weird things that are going on in education with Kyle Olson, EAGnews.org. Dr. History this morning. Dr. Ken Turner's out of town. I believe his wife is having some surgery, and we want to wish them the very, very best. And filling in for him will be Michelle Matthews. She's written a lot of books on history, etc., of this area. Going to be really interesting. And then at 10:32, I am really looking forward to having the former Arizona Assistant Attorney General, and that's Rachel Alexander, and she's written a very interesting piece about you and me and everyone being really wary about the refugees coming into this country. All of that and more coming up later on this morning. By the way, don't forget SafeLink Internet. And their number to call, 677-8000. Now, fast, yes, sir, reliable, you'd better believe it. And they're local, and they've got over 10,000 customers here right now. Listen, sign up today for a 1-year contract and receive free installation and $30 off your bill for the first 3 months. Oh, my. 677-8000. Call them, tell them Zeb sent you. SafeLink Internet. By the way, and I've got a great big bag of Rumply Clumplies to take over to Daryl's Cleaners, and they can work their magic and make them look brand spanking new. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, and they are fantastic. And by the way, you go in there and you lay all your clothes on the counter, they figure it up, here's your bill, pay right then. And by prepaying, you're going to save 10%. Well, there you go. Save money at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Really good, folks. You know, how many of you, if I said this name, would know who it is? Doris Roberts. Does that name ring a bell with you at all? Doris Roberts. Well, it should, because I'd venture to say that most all of my listening audience has seen her and watched her and heard her on television. Yes, Doris Roberts was the actress that played the mother named Marie on Everybody Loves Raymond. And a sad note, I really enjoyed that lady. She passed away at age 90, and she was absolutely perfect for that part of the mother on Everybody Loves Raymond. And I dare say, and I really would like some calls on this, because those of you that ever watched the reruns or the originality of Everybody Loves Raymond, you saw a little bit of your mom in Marie on Everybody Loves Raymond. My mother and Marie could have been, two peas in a pod. And I thought of that many, many times on that television show. They even honestly looked alike. And so anyway, Doris Roberts, that played Marie on Everybody Loves Raymond, passing away, but she and her talent will not be forgotten. She was quite an actress. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, that was a good comedy series, and it was funny. And they didn't have to rely on cussing and everything else. You know, I miss those kind of sitcoms. All that we've got today is trash with a capital T. Don't forget Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. And also 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls, America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant. What are you waiting for? The very best of breakfast and lunch and dinner and anytime, all the time. Get on in there, Thomas and the rest of the crew and Terry, everybody serving you. Oh, and we're going to be over there this Thursday for Lunch Bunch. Yes, we are. Don't you miss it. Zeb's Lunch Bunch at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. We'll be there at 11:30 on this Thursday. Please be at Denny's. Oh, and by the way, We also want to say thank you to some of our gift certificate donors. We've got some lucky people at Lunch Bunch. Some win almost every month, I think. And we'd like to thank Smith's Food King, Hanson Mortuary, Walmart, and Stokes Food. Oh, my goodness. Thank you for all you do for the community and also for Lunch Bunch. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They opened the doors this morning, and they do Monday through Friday at 7:30 till 5. And they've got all your heating and electrical needs. What are you waiting for? Get a hold of them today. Stop in. Call ahead, 678-0459. They'll have your order waiting for you at the counter. These folks really know heating and air conditioning. They know it all, and they've got it all right there at Ramsey Heating and Electric, serving you. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. This isn't the America that I grew up in. I am absolutely livid, and I've got a whole pile of papers here on my, of course there's piles of paper all over this studio, but I've got piles and piles of papers here that I, thanks to my lovely bride and the people that have sent them information to me, we are having our free speech threatened. We being me and others that get on the radio and or TV and tell it like it is. And that's the only way I'm going to do this program. I'm going to tell it like it is. I will not be bent or tied in knots to do things certain ways because somebody might not like it. And I mean this when I say this. Whether it's an advertiser or whether it's a sponsor or whether it's anybody else in the community that doesn't like certain things that are on this program, and they try to say, well, you know, we're going to have to stop you from doing this. We're going to have to go to your sponsor. We're going to have to go here. Go ahead. Go ahead. I have been very successful at this job. And I've been successful in other things that I've really put forth a great effort to. And to take threats from anybody, and say that they're going to stop my free speech and not telling you, the audience, the truth, that just isn't going to happen. Now, I have been adamant that I do not believe, and I'm not by any means the only one. I'm not a single entity standing on a little deserted island by myself. There are numerous people all around the world, and I'm talking millions, that do not buy into this idiocy and ignorance of global warming and that man has caused the slightest warming in any degree. No, I don't believe in it. I never will. Even though the Times News and others in our area, oh my, the sky is falling. I absolutely maintain that God has his hand on the thermostat, as Rodney said one time. I absolutely agree with him. And I think that all this balderdash that they're trying to spew at us as far as, oh, we're all burning up, we got to do this. The healthiest climates are the warmer climates. And even if, underline that word, that we had been warming up for the last 17 years, we have not. And I just talked to a gentleman yesterday after the program, and he was listening on the internet to Marita Noon from Albuquerque, New Mexico on my program. And he called me and he said, you know, I've been on your show, and he's with the Heartland Institute back in Chicago. And he says, I've been on your show many times, and I really appreciate the fact that you're telling it as it is, the truth. And right now we are going into a cooling trend. Things are cooling down. And quite frankly, they're concerned about a too cool atmosphere that may severely affect living conditions in various hemispheres and crop production in various hemispheres. And with a slowdown of food production, oh my. So the government is actually, and here's a note that came in. The government is actually got judges, listen to this, that are studying the people that are against climate change, and they're trying to figure out legally how they can shut them up or fine them or get them kicked off the radio or television. This is America? Are you kidding me? This is the land of the free, home of the brave? And we've got a lockstep Gestapo tactic going on? Well, if you don't believe in climate change, we got to shut you up. What are your thoughts about this, folks? This affects you, your family, your job, your recreation, everything in your life. If you don't adhere to what Big Brother tells you. Call's welcome. Come on, give me a jingle. Don't be silent. That's what this program's for. I'm going to shut the doors one of these mornings if we don't get a lot of participation, because this program is your program to talk and let your opinions be known. Don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. They're located at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And the number to call, I'm going to give you that right now so you can call and make an appointment to help you get back to being you. 678-1191. 678-1191. All the sports medicine, all the exercises. I don't care if you're 6 months old or 96. They can and will help you. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. 678-1191. Really, really good folks. All right, your turn. Now, I really appreciate the fact you give me a call. And while I'm waiting for your call, I've got some political announcements to get in here quick for about 30 seconds. So give me a call. I want to remind you, Charlie Howell, Jerome County Commissioner, District 2, is running for re-election. And Charlie was the man that spearheaded the new criminal justice facility in Jerome. Started 10 years ago, and by golly, coming to fruition. And he's done so many impressive things and worked on impressive projects over in Jerome County. And he wants your vote on May 17th. He believes and demonstrates in team play, and of course, he is the man for District 2. Vote for Charlie Howell, Jerome County Commissioner, District 2, paid for by the Howell for County Commissioner, Brenda Haddam, Treasurer. And by the way, too, caller will be right there. Don't go away. May 17th is the primary election day, and on behalf of three very, very nice gentlemen, Senator Kelly Anthon, Representative Fred Wood, and the Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, don't forget to mark that on your calendar and go vote. You should be proud to vote. And by the way, take your picture ID, and you should be proud that you are voting with your identity. Polls are open from 8 to 8 on the 17th. This is paid for by Senator Kelly Anthon, Representative Fred Wood, and House Speaker Scott Bedke. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
First of all, kudos to our local representatives. They all seem to really be looking out for the folks.
I cannot agree with you more. You know, one thing I want to always discern on this program, Chris, is that I absolutely have a hard time swallowing the lackadaisical pill of national people, national senators, and national congressmen. But I think we are so doggone blessed with what we have in our legislature here, we should all be thankful. Yes,
I think we should. And back to your previous comments, the people who are vying for our national offices need to be a little more forthright. They are not always telling the truth. And I think that particularly in the liberal avenue, they're out there to change our country to a point that we will not even recognize it.
You know, last night,
Americans need to get off their fannies and get out here and get involved.
I agree. You know, last night, and I have been critical, as you know, and if I can't be honest on this program, I'm going to turn the switch off. But on this program, I've been very critical at times of Bill O'Reilly. I think sometimes he's a loudmouth lout. I think he overruns people, etc. But his talking points last night about America and our demise is absolutely spot on. And quite frankly, Chris, I'm not trying to sound like the sky is falling, but you've already voiced that. We're in trouble. America is not the America that we grew up in, and it's threatening our daily lives, it's threatening our families, and it's threatening our future.
Well, and
I sincerely wish that there were maybe a few more of our Second World War veterans alive and well so that they could come on and talk about what they went through to keep this country great. And my father was one of the ones, and he was, because he's gone now, but he shared with us kids horrible stories about what he was fighting for. And I think that made us kids more determined that we were going to help to make this country great rather than tear it down.
I couldn't agree more.
I think the people who are running for officers have not heard those war stories. They need to hear a few of them.
You know, the problem today, and I've got a break here, but I want you to respond to this and see if you agree. The problem today with our education system, and I'm pointing my finger at education, and if they want to call and tell me I'm wrong, fine, do it. Get involved. But the problem with our education system is exactly what you just said. They are not telling our youngsters about all the trials, tribulations, blood, sweat, and tears, and lives that went into giving them this great country. And the other thing they're not doing right now in education is teaching the values of our great American society. And I'll hold my finger against their chest anytime.
Well, I think their hands have been tied from up above in some instances, and that's really too bad. American parents need to get off the duff, and if the teachers are not teaching it, the parents better.
Well, one final thought. I started this segment off by telling you that our threats against us, not veiled threats, but open threats, that judges are meeting and trying to figure out how they can shut up people in the media like myself and Marita Noon from Albuquerque and many others about talking dissenting voices about climate change and other things. That is a lockstep Gestapo government, and it's got to stop.
How many of those people have forgotten who the real thermostat turner-oner is out there in the great beyond? He is in charge, and it's just not going to matter how we think we here down in the United States of America can change the natural science.
Absolutely. You know,
It's ridiculous.
I agree with you. I want to tell you that your clock, your great big grandfather clock in your living room is 30.
I need to set up.
It's 30 seconds early.
Well, I have to put it 30 seconds early so that one time in the week it's right.
All right. God bless you. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it. Thank you. Nice lady right there. Call is welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Have you read the Constitution? Have you really read the Constitution? And really thought about all the sections of the Constitution, sat down and read it really slow, and then read the amendments and really studied and thought about what's going on? I'll give you, for instance, real quick, and I'm going to talk about this with Frosty. I'm running so late, but I got to do this. I got a letter in the mail the other day, a notice, and here's what the first page said, from the American Civil Rights Union, not the ACLU, but the American Civil Rights Union. And they sent out this letter that said, National Voter Opinion Survey on Illegal Immigrant Voting in the 2016 presidential election. What? There shouldn't be any illegal immigrant voting. Who is the idiot that's pushing that? Because read Amendment 19, and it says, the right of citizens. The right of citizens, I'm going to say it again, class, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged. Not illegal aliens, the right of citizens. What is going on in this country that we're letting the creeps and the morons and the non-educated and the ignorant take over and run this place? It's absolutely astounding to me. Calm down, Zeb. Don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental, and 3 locations, South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. They have the equipment to get any job done right. I mean it. Now is the time to check out a Coyote tractor. Oh my, listen to this. You can buy a Coyote tractor at 0% interest for 60 months. Now, you cannot beat that deal with a stick, and those Coyote tractors are really good. They've got all the equipment there for you, whether it's the Bobcat equipment, Doosan equipment, Coyotes we talked about, Walker lawnmowers, oh my, all there for you at Berry Equipment and Rental in Jerome, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Don't you forget that. Oh, and by the way, too, Ramsey Heating and Electric offering rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox, saving you money. I love that word. Come on, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, too, real quick, and then I'll take your calls. Come on, 436-2244. I want to remind you about the lovely doctor of audiology, Christine Pickup, over at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And this lady is absolutely so well educated and so well informed and has so much ability to help you with your hearing problems. I heartily urge you to call her at 312-0957. Her office, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, is located right across from the Minidoka Hospital emergency room. And I heartily, like I said, I use that word twice, suggest you call for a hearing screening today. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, 312-0957. Your turn, and I really would look forward to having you give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Some of you might be offended when I say this one word, but I think for the dynamics of the situation last night, when Greta Van Susteren on her program said this, she was absolutely right. She showed more frustration last night on her hour program from 5 to 6 on Fox. And I like Greta. I think she tells it like it is. I never, in the beginning of her career, really cared for her. And then she developed this 1 hour program, I think, of being really spot on with the news. And last night, she had her closing comments on the program. And you could see that, A, she was very mad. B, she was frustrated, and she looked right at the camera and she said, Obama and our government don't give a damn for us. That's a pretty harsh statement. It's a pretty direct statement. And I'll repeat it again, and I think she's right. I don't think this President Obama and this government currently gives a damn about the people. They are only out there to be subservient to their agendas. Their agendas. Whether it has something to do with the economy, whether it has something to do with health insurance, whether it has something to do with climate change, whether it has something to do with letting the Muslims come in and just basically take over Dodge City. I honestly believe she is correct in saying it. I'll repeat it again. Many may be offended, but this is the way the verbiage came across on national TV last night. Obama and our government don't give a damn about us. And I think that's becoming poignantly true. They treat themselves like they're elitists. That they are a cut above you and I. They look down their horn-rimmed glasses at us and go, oh, be gone, little person. Do as we say, not as we do. Don't you get that feeling? Honestly, don't you get that feeling? Our national government right now is treating you and I like we don't matter. What are your thoughts? Please don't give up calling. I love to hear your phone calls. Come on, give me a jingle. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'll go back to what my uncle had told me a long time ago. And I thought the world of my uncle. I really did. We did a lot together, hunted and fished together and everything. And he told me one time, he said, "You are no better than anybody else. But nobody is better than you." Come on, give me a jingle. I want to hear what you have to say. And right now, I want to remind you, Tim Darrington is running for Cassia County Commissioner, District 3. Lifelong resident of Cassia County, farmer and rancher, and he knows about the land, and he's a great steward of the land. He wants to provide good roads, safe environment, and good quality of life for everybody in Cassia County, and he encourages job opportunities, new industry, and smart growth for the citizens of Cassia County now and for future generations. Vote for Tim Darrington, Cassia County Commissioner, District 3, paid for by Darrington 4 Commissioner, Gail Erickson, Treasurer. Caller, don't go away. I will be right with you, I promise. I also have to get this in. Kelly Anthon, Idaho State Senator. That is a man that really does the job. I'll tell you, Kelly is a strong voice for agriculture and a proven record of success in economic development. He believes in prosperity and also the rights to speak freely, bear arms, and practice religion must be defended, and he will do that. He has served as both Burley City Attorney and Rupert City Attorney, and he wants your vote again to run for the State Senate. Kelly Anthon. Vote to re-elect Kelly Anthon, State Senator. Elaine Stevenson, Treasurer. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, old friend.
Do you agree or disagree with me?
I agree. Yes, I do. And did you see on Hannity last night when he's talking about Hillary and Bernie and how Bernie's pulled Hillary quite a ways to the left, and this guy's saying, yeah, she's going there just to win the primary, and then she'll come back to the middle for the election. And Hannity says, so you say she's lying about where she stands and how she feels? Well, she's just playing the primary to win the primary, and then she'll come back to the middle for the election.
Oh, absolutely. You know, Doug, I'm not being theatric when I say this, but after Marita Noon was on my program yesterday, Marita from Albuquerque, New Mexico, she emailed me some very important information that had just come across her desk while she was on my program yesterday. And there literally are judges that have met and are plotting how they can ban anyone from denying climate change and fine them, imprison them, or get them out of their job. Is that the America that you grew up in?
No, sir. And that's the America we need to fight to get back, though. We need to fight to get our America back.
Okay, but where are the people, Doug? You know something? You have always had the responsible attitude of getting involved in stating your case and calling. And you know what gets me? I get up at 3:45 in the morning, and I sometimes ask myself, why? Why do I do this? Because I'm 68 years old, and it's not easy getting up at 3:45 in the morning and staying awake until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and then repeating the cycle the next day. People have got to get involved. It can't be just listening to the radio.
No. People out there, the radio talk shows like yours and Hannity's and all of the conservative talk, like Levin and everybody, they're informing us. It's up to us to do the work. They're not doing the work. They're just informing us. You're just telling us what's going on, what's happening around the world that we don't get a chance to hear.
Well, how do you respond to this? How do you respond to this? Because this is insane. If you would have asked me, or if I would have asked you this 30 years ago, when we were a lot younger, that we had to be worried right now that illegal alien voters may vote in our presidential election and steal our vote, cancel our vote out. What happened to our Constitution and its amendments, Doug?
Yeah, there's I got lost. The politicians are out for themselves. They're not representing the country. They're taking care of themselves. They're saying, heck with the American people. If I can't get voted by citizens, then I'm going to work on making it so illegals can vote, which is baloney. Had you told me that 30 years ago, I'd have said, you are plumb crazy.
Yes.
You need to go to being put in Blackfoot.
Here's the other thing. Yesterday, we were very blessed on this program to have a noted authority on Islam, and this man, Dr. Alvin Schmidt, I hope you heard him yesterday because he's a very straightforward, honest man, has studied Islam, and he's very concerned. As a matter of fact, I'll go a step higher. He's extremely worried about their involvement in our United States, our politics, and also our culture. And for people, after the program, I had a couple of calls, and they were going, oh, well, don't worry about it. It'll never happen here. It's just going to happen in Europe. Doug, it's spreading like a cancer, and nobody is doing anything about it.
Right. I mean, if we see what's going on in Europe, and they don't think that can happen here, that's apathy. That's it's always going to be like this. Everybody, it's never always going to be like this. Things will change. And if we don't control which direction they change, they're going to change for the worse instead of the better.
Yeah, and here's something else to mull over, and I want some more calls on this morning. I had a chance to read about Hillary. I told you that last week, her tax plan that they said would add $1 trillion, TRILLION, out of our pockets if she's elected president. Well, then here's Bernie. Here's Bernie Sanders. And his tax plan would take between 8 and 10% more out of your paycheck to pay for the freebies. So in simple terminology, if you're making $50,000 a year, that's an extra $5,000, an extra $5,000 out of your paycheck that goes to send the punk millennials to school for free.
Yeah, we're taxed enough as it is. Can you imagine trying to live on $5,000 less a year or $6,000 less a year? Just think about that, folks.
What they're doing in this country, and people don't get involved. Nobody goes to the meetings. Nobody stands up. Nobody, when somebody like Crapo or Rish or somebody comes to town, they sit there and they'll call me on the radio. And I've told you this, and it infuriates me. They'll say, hey, Zeb, are you going to go to that meeting? Yes, I am. Well, why don't you ask so-and-so this? And I just blow my top because you lazy people have got to take care of fighting for yourselves.
This is true. If you don't fight for yourself, nobody's going to fight for you.
Absolutely. Doug, God bless you. I don't know where that music came from all of a sudden, but I hope it doesn't come back. Thank you very much, Doug. I appreciate your call.
Oh, and hasn't the Lord given us a beautiful day today?
I am blessed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't forget Penetron by Maisie. Penetron Soil Conditioner by Maisie, a 22-year proven record of increasing yield and quality of all Idaho crops. Don't forget speeding germination, reducing crusting, improving stand, stimulates root growth and microbial activity, which means better crops, more money in your pocket. Penetron Soil Conditioner also saves water, and there again, more saving. Penetron treated crops have better roots that reduces stress for water and nutrients, and you will be so happy, and so will your pocketbook. Increase your crop's performance with a proven soil conditioner, Penetron by Maisie. Get the original, not the cheap imitations. Contact your crop advisor to obtain Penetron Soil Conditioner today. Time for the weather, and then I want some calls. Come on, folks. Don't quit me. Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service brings us the weather, 336 South, 450 West of Paul. Number to call, 431-8733. Boy, if you haven't pruned your trees or your bushes, better call Gano Landscaping, because a healthy tree is one that's pruned and ready to meet the world in the sunshine and the rain and everything else. And don't forget, too, they are excellent at putting sprinkler systems in and repairing sprinkler systems. Give them a call, 431-8733. Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. Here's Gina with the weather.
Looks like sunny skies for today, and it's going to be nice. Slightly breezy winds out of the west, right around 8 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 71. Tonight, a low of 42. Tomorrow, sunny, a little bit on the breezy side, high of 76 with an overnight low of 45. Winds kicking up out of the southeast to about 10 to 15 miles an hour for Thursday and Friday. Under partly cloudy skies, high of 80 with overnight lows in the mid to upper 40s. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Gina, thank you. Brought to everybody this hour by Good Old Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. 336 South, 450 West of Paul, 431-8733. All right, your turn. Come on, give me a call, 436-2244. I want to hear from you. And another $5,000 out of our paychecks if Bernie were to be elected. And it's not much better if Hillary was elected. God help us all. You know she wants a $1 trillion increase in her tax plan. And, you know, for Big Bernie, wild-haired Bernie, to sit there in front of the TV cameras, it's almost laughable, but now he's got so much support. He's closed the gap in New York, where they're going to vote today in the primaries. He was way down. Hillary had a substantial lead, and all of a sudden, overnight, the polls they took last night and yesterday afternoon, holy cow, he's closed to like 2% difference. These people are absolutely supporting free, whether it's free cell phones, free internet, free college education. There is no free lunch. I hate to break the bubble and tell you. Why, that's an eye-opener for somebody this morning. You mean it's not free? It just didn't disappear or appear on my doorstep? It's not just given to me? No. Somebody's got to pay for it. And that somebody is you and me. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget, I'll be right with you. Minidoka County Sheriff Eric Snar running for re-election. Here's a hard-working sheriff out in the field doing any job necessary for his constituents. His pledge to you to make your community safer, and he would appreciate your vote on May 17th. Absolutely. His promise is to do the best for you every single day in office as Sheriff of Minidoka County. And this is paid for by the re-elect Eric Snar for Minidoka County Sheriff Jason Gibbons, Secretary. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Thank you for your call.
Good morning, Zeb. Listening to what Hillary and Bernie want to do with taxes makes you wonder if they've ever taken an economics class, period, once in their entire life. They claim to be incredibly smart, but the way their policies are, they're not very brilliant. They don't think things through.
Yeah, well, wait a minute, Riley. Riley, wait a minute. They may not be very smart, and they may not have thought things through, but on the other side of the coin, they are appealing to an ever-growing audience of people that are too doggone lazy to work for themselves.
I was going to get to that too. You can't tax your people making the money to death, or they won't have anything. And then it's just going to end up the people who can't make anything don't try anymore, because what's the point? And then everybody's going to want just a free gimme, along with just the regular gimme people.
That's right.
Because I've worked my butt off like you and everybody else, and to see these people, millennials or whoever you want to call them, give me free schooling, give me free housing, give me a free phone, give me a free car, and then they bring in immigrants and give me a free house, give me a free car. You know, we're just free in. I'm paying for it, you're paying for it, but yet we can't go to our polls and vote it out because the people that they giving free stuff to just cancel. Like you're saying before, it's frustrating. But.
Yeah. I appreciate your viewpoint, young man. Thank you very much for your call. I think you're spot on. Appreciate that. You know, I'm frustrated like he is. That young man is quite a bit younger than I am. And like I said, I'm 68. I make no bones about it. Big deal. I've been there. I've seen the white elephant and the buffalo and everything else. But I'll guarantee you one thing. I'm sick and tired of the way this country is being diminished in its value and its integrity. I absolutely will do everything I can on this program and outside of this program to fight any and all Democratic platforms. I think they are absolutely evil, and I think they're anti-American. And I have put out the issuance of a welcome mat to any and all Democrats that want to appear on my program, whether it's a local Democrat, whether it's a state Democrat, or whether it's a national Democrat that has any power or pull in the party to discuss their platform and how you can back such an idiotic stance. So far, it's been proven to us, well, let's see now, for at least a couple of years, that they don't have the backbone and the spine to come on this program. I even remember a call, and this is kind of interesting, and I'll share this again with you. I remember a call that to a person in the Magic Valley a couple of years ago. And this person I did not know was a backer of the Democratic Party. There was a news story about this guy in the paper and his past achievements and everything. And I thought, well, that would be nice to have on the program and visit with him about what he's done. And I nicely called his home and got a hold of him. And I said, would you like to come on my program and talk about that newspaper story? No, I don't want to be on your program. You're a conservative. Gee. That kind of hurt. Yes, I am a conservative, very much so, proud of it. I didn't bring politics into the conversation. I was trying to give this gentleman a little bit more exposure on the radio program for that newspaper story about what he had achieved. And like a dog that hadn't been fed in a couple of days, he just kind of snarled and curled back his lips and bit at me. Is that really how the Democratic Party is? I wonder. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget our friends at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Deanne, would you do me a favor for a quick second if you could come in here? I forgot something. It's my fault. Don't forget to stop in and check out all the tires that are on sale right now. My goodness, this is a great time of the year. Very convenient credit available, and they've got a lot of custom wheels on sale, too. And don't forget front end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries, and always that 7-letter word, service. They really care. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, absolutely the best. All right, give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Wheels, did I hear that cow while I was doing the ad right there? I couldn't tell. Something beeped in my headset.
No, sir, you're fine.
Oh, I'm not fine. I heard something. That's a bad sign. Okay. Calls welcome. Come on, give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Yeah, the big New York State primary is today, and they've been waiting for this one for a long time, and the way that it's shaped up early this morning when I contacted some of my people on the East Coast and talked to them, I think it's going to be Trump on the Republican ticket, the GOP, by a landslide. A landslide. And when I asked these same people what they thought about over on the Democratic side, there was a little bit of hedging there. A couple of days ago, these same folks said, well, it looks like old Bernie's going to feel the pain and Hillary's going to take everything in New York. Now, this morning, there was a change of thought because the latest polls showed that old Bernie jumped from being down in double digits only 2 percentage points behind Hillary in the state of New York. So that could be a really interesting race up until 9 o'clock Eastern time tonight. We'll see. Don't forget Lunch Bunch is coming up this Thursday at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. And we want to say thanks to Smith's Food King, Hanson Mortuary, Walmart, and Stokes Food. Thank you very, very much for all your gift certificates and your involvement in Zeb's Lunch Bunch. 11:30 this Thursday at Denny's. Don't you miss it. Real quick note before we take off for this morning on this hour. I want to remind you, next hour, my dear friend Frosty Woldridge, Golden, Colorado, will be on. We're going to be talking about many, many things in the news. And then at 9:30, a friend of this program that has been on all the national newscasts with eagnews.org, Kyle Olson, is going to be available to us. And then at 10:06 this morning, Dr. History. And at 10:32, former Arizona Assistant Attorney General Rachel Alexander talking about the refugees coming into our country. So we got a lot of things to talk about here this morning, including your phone calls. So I always appreciate your giving us your thoughts on various items. Right now, we're going to have this good word, and then we're going to have Wheels play music right up until the news at 9 o'clock. Wheels, thank you, buddy. Take it away. Oh, good morning and welcome back, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. Thank you very much, Les Schwab. Along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources.
Quality, dependability, and value, all backed by a locally owned guarantee, Western Waste Services. That's how they built their company, and that's how they will stay. Serving you, and the slogan is correct, always at your disposal. Getting rid of your garbage. Call them today, 734-6969. Western Waste Services. You be sure and get a hold of them today. Don't forget on Mondays at 9:16, Vicky's Country Gardening for Idiots, a program named after me. I'm learning, though, by golly, and she does a great job. Vicky's Country Garden, 185 South, 600 West of Paul, for all your gardening and landscaping needs. Don't forget, Vicky's Country Garden. Want to remind you, too, about our friends at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, with Joel Heward, the manager, and, of course, his family and the staff. All the folks right there with really flexible hours to serve you and your family. Now, when there's the passing of a loved one, I know from my experiences, everything is just thrown up in the air. There's a lot of turmoil. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to get it done. They can and they will help. Please remember this number, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, always treating you and your family with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary, 436-5636. Let's go to the phone line right now because it's Tuesday and I have my dear, dear friend, Frosty Woldridge in Golden, Colorado. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. And before we get into our usual discussion, I would really invite everyone, and I mean everyone who has a friend who has cancer, who has a family member who has cancer, or anyone who has cancer, to go to my latest piece on newswithviews.com. It's also published on 15 other websites. Ty Bollinger is a man, an investigative journalist, who has created a series. It's a 9-part series, The Truth About Cancer, A Global Quest. And in this series, and I've now watched 7 parts of it, there are 8 and 9 are coming up tonight and tomorrow, I wrote the first of my series on his series, and it's called The Depths of Their Depravity, the American Medical Association, Monsanto, and Chemotherapy. For anyone who has cancer, who has friends with cancer, we need to be educated to what the American Cancer Society is doing to us, what the American Medical Society Association is doing to us, what Monsanto is doing, and what the owners of all of the chemotherapy are doing to us, because Americans aren't getting the truth about cancer. And this extraordinary, I literally would nominate this Ty Bollinger and his wife for a Nobel Prize, because it is an extraordinary expose. And please start reading my series on his series. And in fact, get the 9-part series, again, that's now being offered across the Internet, and it's titled The Truth About Cancer, A Global Quest. And in my column, you can have part 1. This series will absolutely enlighten you. It will astound you. It will sober you as to what and all of the baloney that Monsanto and the chemicals it produces is throwing onto the American public, all the GMO foods, the Roundup, you name it. This is an important series for anyone with cancer, so I hope that you all go and get this and read the article today at newswithviews.com.
All right, Frosty, you betcha. Now, let me ask you this. I think I mentioned this to you last week, but if I didn't, I'm going to mention it again. I was absolutely outraged the other night on the news when a report came out that showed and broke down the costs of how much we, the American public, are paying per day. I want to emphasize that, per day, to ship illegal aliens back to their host country. And in many cases, we're only putting one on an airplane. One on an airplane. The cost is approximately $300,000 to $500,000 per day, and nobody's outraged about it.
You know, I saw that report also, and again, Barack Obama is engineering or re-engineering America's demographic. He is feverishly working to absolutely open the borders to unlimited immigration, specifically Muslim immigration. He is on course right now to bring in no less than somewhere close to around 75,000 and even closer to 100,000 Middle Eastern Syrian refugees. And if you think that's going to change, there is no one in Congress other than Jeff Sessions of Alabama. There's no one other than Roy Beck at numbersusa.org or Dan Stein at the Federation for American Immigration Reform that's even speaking up besides you and besides me. And the American public is clueless about this is what's going on in our country right now, and this is how we and what we are facing right now as to this unbelievable lack, in fact, a lawless president. This is a lawless president, and we're not only paying for it, we're the victims of it.
Frosty, I know that with your expertise and your knowledge on immigration or illegal immigration, you are very much aware of what's going on in this country for many on the liberal side to let illegal aliens vote in our presidential election. And the other day, I got a notice in the mail from the American Civil Rights Union, not the ACLU, but the American Civil Rights Union, and there was a great big headline that they're taking a national opinion survey, should illegal immigrants vote in the presidential election this year? And I refer to you, my dear friend. I'm sure you're aware of the wording of the 19th Amendment in our Constitution, and the first line says, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged. We're not talking about illegal aliens. We're not talking about somebody jumping the water down at the Rio Grande and coming into the United States to be able to vote. We're talking about citizens. Our amendments and our Constitution is being trashed, my dear friend.
That's correct. Barack Obama is completely trashing it. As a matter of fact, he pushed this amnesty all the way to the Supreme Court, and I don't know what the ruling is, but if the Supreme Court allows his amnesties, he will have created a whole new, not an executive branch, but a legislative branch folded into the executive branch, where the president gets to create laws counter to the American people and counter to the Congress. That's how upside down this president obviously is, and how upside down the interpretation of the Constitution right now. And again, if the American people sit by and watch, this stuff is going to continue until January the 20th of 2017.
I couldn't agree more. Frosty, we're in the middle of primary voting season on May 17th, our Idaho primaries. Bear with me 1 minute as I take care of two of our candidates. Stand by, please. Don't forget Scott Yates for Cassia County Sheriff. And Scott, of course, is not a part of the establishment. He wants you to come to an open house on Thursday evening this week, April 21st, at the Burley Senior Center, anytime between 7 and 9 p.m. to visit with him about his candidacy as a Cassia County Sheriff candidate, or call him on his number, 432-2221. Scott Yates for Cassia County Sheriff, paid for by the Yates for Sheriff Committee in Cassia County, Treasurer Julie Jaime. Thank you very much. Also, I want to remind you, too, about Tommy Hutchison, candidate for Cassia County Commissioner, District 3. Tommy Hutchison wants your vote on May 17th. For Cassia County Commissioner, he's a straight shooter and will tell it like it is businessman that wants better for Cassia County residents. Changes are needed for everyone to enjoy and pursue a better life in Cassia County, and Tommy's a hard worker. Tommy Hutchison for District 3 Cassia County Commissioner, paid for by the Hutchinson for Commissioner, Don Frazier, Treasurer. Frosty, along with that kind of money, $500,000 a day to maybe send one illegal alien back to the homeland of Mexico or wherever, we are right now being deluged with Obama ignoring all the fears, ignoring all the warnings about the Syrian Muslim refugees coming in. And he wants to increase the number not from 10,000 to maybe 15,000, but they're talking 60 to maybe 80 to maybe 100,000. And every single day that goes by, my dear friend, I have more people coming out of the woodwork calling me to come on my program, including this morning, the former Arizona Assistant Attorney General, Rachel Alexander. She said, no, we've got to stop this mess. What are your thoughts?
Well, again, this is subterfuge. This president is undermining the Constitution. There are literally no senators that will speak up and stop him, and the American people just are being duped completely. And they don't realize that not only are they allowing this injection of all of these Muslims into this country and all of these refugees, which are raising havoc and terror in Europe right now. I mean, they just found out at the Brussels bombing, folks, just a few weeks ago, that the third bomber was a Syrian refugee. That has now been established. He's a Syrian refugee, and I do believe they've caught him, but that doesn't make any difference. He's already bombed and killed all those people and created unbelievable terror, and he was a Syrian refugee. So we are importing and injecting Syrian refugee terrorists into this country right now, and it's only a matter of time before they start manifesting another San Bernardino, another Boston Marathon, another Chattanooga, Tennessee, another Garland, Texas. I mean, it's coming again, and it's because the American people just keep watching and letting this happen. They're not calling their senators. They're not calling their House reps. They just keep electing the same characters that have caused this in the first place, and there's no national outcry. And the fact is, the mainstream media, ABC, NBC, CBS, noticed yesterday they did some stories on the survivors of the Boston bombings, never said once that they were Muslim terrorists. Not one word about Muslim Islamic terrorism in our country, but it is now seeding itself. Again, there are 35, this is good information, 35 terrorist training camps on private property from New York all the way to Oregon, through Michigan and Pennsylvania in our country, and we are going to face dangerous consequences because of this. And the U.S. president, the one that we have in that White House right now, I can't call him a U.S. president, is leading the way and facilitating the augmentation. He's facilitating the terrorists into our country through the Syrian refugee program, and he is feverishly working to make sure it happens.
Frosty, last night I was commenting, first of all, last hour I made a comment about Greta Van Susteren last night on her program. And at the very end of the program, with only a 60-second window before going to the O'Reilly factor, Greta looked at the camera and you could tell that she was visibly mad, visibly shaken. And her last 60-second commentary summed up, and I'm using her words right now, she said that Obama and our government right now don't give a damn for us.
I watched it. I watched it. That's exactly right. There is a total agenda to destroy the culture of America, the language of America, and the ethos of our country right now, and it's being done by mass immigration. And it's both legal and it's illegal. And now it's refugee. So we've got legal, illegal, and refugee immigration coming into this country, undermining the foundation entire people. And it is going to end badly in the big cities. And then you're going to see more and more Americans flee. They're fleeing Chicago right now. They're fleeing Minneapolis, Minnesota. They're certainly fleeing Los Angeles. And they're fleeing any place where all of this violence and all of these very literally un-American people who are stomping on our flag, who are rioting in the streets, who are shutting down freeways, who are stopping Donald Trump from speaking, in other words, stopping the First Amendment. And that's what's going on. And until the American people start to turn and start to get so angry and start calling in to their reps and calling in to letters to the editor and to radio stations, and they get speakers like yours truly on to the forefront, this is going to continue, and we're all going to become victims. That's just what's happening right now, and you know it, and I know it. And until the American people get angry and stop mass immigration, a total shutdown in immigration, we're going to see more and more of this, and more of these Syrian refugees, and more Islamic violence to our country.
Well, you know, it was interesting, and I'm so glad, honestly, that you saw that last night. Her demeanor.
You want to swallow your tongue. It makes you so mad. It's just, you can't stop your own. I'm infuriated, and yet it continues because the American people just sit back and watch it.
Yeah, and you know, we sat there and I watched her, and I told my wife, I said, "My goodness, that wasn't theatrics. That was a very besieged commentator that is sick and tired of where America is heading." And then, right after that, if you watched and listened, I have been a critic of Bill O'Reilly on many occasions because of his blowhard attitude, but, and I say this, but his talking points last night about America going in reverse and going over a cliff was exactly 100% spot on. We've got to change things in this country, Frosty. It's almost too late.
It is almost too late. But again, every person listening across America and Canada today to the Zeb at the Ranch, you've got to join organizations that empower you. www.capsweb.org, run by Joanne Weidman, is calling for a complete immigration shutdown of all legal immigration, and certainly enforce the laws on the books to stop employers from employing illegal aliens. NumbersUSA.org. Every person out there should get those two videos, the 5-minute video on immigration gumballs and poverty and immigration off the charts, to every person across the country. We've got to change the intellectual, the emotional, and mental thinking of American citizens to understand that immigration, further immigration into this country, will deleteriously affect our future and literally will turn us into another Europe, and at some point we'll be battling among ourselves, not only culturally and religiously, we'll be battling for our very survival environmentally. I know every person listening right now is sitting there, you are nodding your head in agreement. I'm hoping to get on 60 Minutes. I'm hoping to get on Charlie Rose. I'm hoping to bring a reasoned debate and discussion on this thing, because if we don't, we are going to become victims of mass immigration into our country.
I agree with you. We've got a quick call. Caller, go ahead with your comment. Fast. Go ahead.
Okay, many years ago I made some mistakes and ended up in the penitentiary. What I wanted to say was, the Muslims are going in there and recruiting and changing religions in there, and it's a scary place because from there's a lot of bad people in there, and changing them to that religion and that pathway, I just think that's something that needs to be looked at, because that was a lot of years ago, and the way things are going, it's multiplied.
Very honest comment. Thank you, sir. Frosty, respond if you would, please.
Yeah, well, and again, these are prisoners who have done violent acts, and then you couple them with Islam, which is and provokes and promotes violent acts and terror, because that's what the Quran does. You now have people coming out of those prisons who are ready-made terrorists, and so the person, the caller, just stated it, and the numbers are multiplying because these people are criminals, and they are being turned into terrorists through Islamic indoctrination in the prisons. That's a fact, and that's what's going on, and it's multiplying.
Okay, real quick, I've only got a couple of minutes left, Frosty, but I want you to comment on this. Bernie Sanders and Hillary. Hillary came out with her tax plan, wants to increase the taxes, $1 trillion tax plan. Bernie Sanders wants to take 90% of our money. His tax plan on somebody basing $50,000 a year income would take an additional $5,000 out of your paycheck to pay for the freebies of free college for the millennials. Your thoughts? This is driving me nuts.
It's driving me really to the point of what is going on with reasoned and rational thinking and reasoned and rational minds there in Congress and certainly the leaders of this country. If Bernie Sanders, a socialist, gets in, he will fulfill, the great thinker who talked about Churchill. Churchill said, socialism, it is a destructive philosophy. It cannot and doesn't work. Just like Marxism, it doesn't work. You cannot take hard-working people's money and give it to those who would sit on their butts. We've already seen the Great Society and how that worked out. We've seen how the aid to dependent children worked out, where mothers have up to 24 children. They're making $1,600 a month on each child, so they're literally making money by making babies. That doesn't work. You've got food stamps right now feeding 48 million Americans, and they're sitting on their butts drinking Coca-Cola and watching TV while you and I work. It doesn't work. Again, if Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton become the President of the United States, a guaranteed fact that what's going on now will get even worse, and we're going to all pay for it.
Well stated, my friend. Frosty Woldridge in Golden, Colorado, a suburb to Denver, where the Colorado Rockies have a home run hitter that absolutely, every time he goes up to the plate, there it goes into left field, a long home run. Boy, you got quite a ball player there in that story.
Yeah, the story is quite the story, if I may repeat myself. And it does bring a great deal of joy to see a young man like that go out there, and he's in the bigs now. He's in the bigs, and he's really making people excited. He's giving them a show, and it's whether it's a young Babe Ruth or whatever, it's a lot of fun to watch. And of course, there's a lot of great joy out there in the United States today. We still have our country. We still have our sports. I hope that everybody enjoys the boys this summer, and I also hope that each one of you, reads my Monsanto expose on cancer, but also that you get out and start joining the organizations. I hope you. That I advocate for, but also get involved, call your senators, and call your House reps. We need to stop mass immigration into this country no matter what, Zeb.
Absolutely. Thank you, Frosty. God bless you, man. Talk to you next Tuesday.
God bless.
Thank you very much. My dear friend Frosty Woldridge, and I appreciate him being on my program Tuesdays at 9:06. Hey, by the way, John Lenker is running for Jerome County Sheriff. 18 total years experience in law enforcement. He's worked 14 years for the Jerome Police Department and spent 7 of those years as a school resource officer. He's been a coach, and he understands youth and what their needs are, and he wants to increase accountability in the sheriff's office and increase morale. Vote on May 17th for John Lenker, Jerome County Sheriff, paid for by the Lenker for Sheriff Committee Chairman Bill Watts. Hey, ladies, there's a happening coming up. It's called Hats Off to Simplicity. It's going to be the Women's Seminar and Expo, April 28th. My goodness, it's right around the corner from 9:30 to 3:30 at the Best Western plus Burley Inn. Oh, my goodness, this is quite a place and quite a happening. Lunch will be served at 11:30, and it's going to be served from 11:30 to 1:30. Tickets are $20 by April 22nd. Better get them in a hurry. And $23 after that at the door. And by golly, they're going to have vendors. They're going to have great speakers. All kinds of fun, sponsored by the Mini-Cassia Chamber of Commerce, Idaho Housing and Finance Association, Elite Restoration, Intermountain Cassia Regional Medical Center, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and, of course, Title I Corporation. Don't miss it on April 28th. In just a moment, we're going to have our dear friend of this program, Kyle Olson, on the program, so stand by for that. But first and foremost, I also want to remind you about Let's Ride. Ho, ho, ho. Where the fun is sold. Let's Ride 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Summer hours open Mondays through Saturday, 9 to 6. And they've got all the Suzuki 4x4s over there. 0% financing. Are you kidding? No, I am not. Absolutely. I've got Suzukis, and Deanna and I love ours. You'll love yours too. They've got all kinds of the great service department, parts department, all the accessories, and also all the watercraft for this summer at Let's Ride 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, where the fun is sold. While you're over in that area, don't forget our friends Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. You know, you want to work with professionals. You want to work with people that know their business to help you with yours. And that's why when it comes to life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, you want to work with the people that are really accessible and dedicated to serving your needs. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Number to call for an appointment, excuse me for the frog in my throat, 436-4424. 436-4424. Right now, let's go to the phone line. And I have been very blessed on this program to have the best people of all different categories and topics. And right now, I'd like to say good morning to a gentleman that's been here many, many times, Kyle Olson with EAGnews.org. Good morning, Kyle. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
You know, you're always welcome on this program, and there's so many topics. I'm going to kind of trade the punchlines with you a little bit this morning, if I may. I'm going to let you pick one or two of the first subjects that you want to talk about education and what's going on, right or wrong, and then I've got a couple that I've pulled off the wire that I'll ask you about. So really, what changes are you going to tell us about this morning that are going on over at EAGnews.org?
Well, we continue to talk about the culture war that's going on in schools and how parents are trying to instill their values in their kids, and a lot of times school people are trying to do the same. And so, you know, we're continuing to focus on how that is playing out. And one of the most interesting examples, I think, these days is a situation in Wisconsin where a group of parents for the last couple of years have been holding these off-campus, they call them Jesus lunches, where they hold these lunches right in a park right next to campus so kids can just walk. And the parents make the food, and they started out with just a couple kids a couple years ago, and they have just continued to grow to the point where there are literally hundreds of kids going to these lunches. And last week, the school administrators tried to step in and say that they can no longer hold these lunches. They say because of their concerns about the food safety, but in reality, when it came down to it, they didn't like the message that the parents were voluntarily sharing with the kids who were voluntarily at the lunch. And so that now is playing out, and so it's interesting to see those kinds of stories. And in fact, there's another Jesus lunch today where the parents are going to have cameras, and there's an atheist group that's now showing up and is, of course, complaining about kids learning about Jesus. But those are the interesting kinds of stories that are going on that we like to talk about.
Well, right now I've got 1,000 questions. Oh, my goodness, did you ever pique my interest? Number one, the activity is not on school ground. It's not interfering with the curriculum. It's not interfering with inviting or trying to bring somebody in that may not want to be there. And number two, how in the world can they say food safety? You know, I'm sure they've gone to every reach to make sure that it's all right, and if they had to, they could get it catered by a licensed restaurant. It doesn't seem like they have many legs for the antis to stand on.
The school is claiming they lease the park, and because they lease the park during the school day, they can say what happens in the park. The parents are saying, no, it's a public park. Other people can come and, walk their dogs and those sorts of things, and you're not trying to regulate that. But you don't like what we're doing, and so you're trying to stop that. And but then, of course, the parents are saying, as you just said, kids are coming willingly. No one is forcing them to go. All of those kinds of things. And so that's where the clash is happening right now. And I think to some degree the school could have concerns, legitimate concerns about, the amount of kids going off campus and exactly what is happening. And not that they should be regulating that, but just so they're aware of what's going on. I think that's legitimate, but that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is that they have concerns about the message. And the letter to parents said that they don't tolerate religious or political activity occurring on their campus. And they categorize that as their campus because they're leasing it. That's the rub. That's ultimately what they're after, is they don't like the message. And the parents are saying, well, too bad. The First Amendment protects the message, and we will continue to do this, and kids can choose whether or not they want to continue to come.
Kyle, I think it boils down to this, and tell me if you think I'm wrong. I'm a very blunt individual, and I'm an in-your-face individual if I think my rights or my freedoms are being impaired. Number one, I absolutely think that they'd better not kowtow to the school, the administration, or any threats. Little by little, inch by inch, day by day, and it's not an Abbott and Costello routine, it's the truth. They are taking away our right to be Christians in this country and to celebrate our Christianity, and I absolutely hope these parents stand up and fight. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, and they are. We posted a video. It was an exclusive video last Friday. It's got, between Facebook and YouTube, it's got over 90,000 views. And the video is by one of the parents who's holding a cell phone. And the point of it was that basically the parents were handing a letter from their attorney to the school administrator, who was literally blocking the parking lot with orange cones, so the parents couldn't go in and park in the parking lot at the park. And but the parents were very polite, they were respectful, but they said, no, we're going to continue to do this. Now, it's our understanding that the police, the school district tried to get the police involved, and they refused to get involved because they said there's nothing illegal, nothing is wrong, and so that's what's playing out. It's our understanding that, like I said earlier, the lunch is happening again today. The school district is not going to try and stop it this week, but we'll see what happens next week. And our suspicion is that they are going to go to court to try and get a court order to block the parents from continuing to hold the Jesus lunches in the park.
All right, let me ask you this, Kyle, because I'm originally from Wisconsin, as you know. What town in Wisconsin, so that after this program is over, maybe next week, I can try to arrange a segment with some of the parents. What town are we talking about?
It's Middleton. The school is Middleton.
Okay.
Which is near Madison.
Yep.
Just west of Madison.
Yep.
And the school district is Middleton Cross Plains. I can connect you with the attorney that we've been talking with, and he could, probably help to set that up.
As a matter of fact, it's a small world, because while I was in high school back years ago when they still circled the wagons in the afternoon, Middleton was in our conference, the Badger Conference for our athletics. So I'm very well aware of this school. I'm very well aware of many of the people that live in that area. And if you'd send me that information, I will do my best to get that on the air.
Sure, that'd be great.
One thing I've got to ask you about, Kyle, and it really concerns me, is that every time I turn around and my lovely bride goes to the computer and she finds various stories, or if I turn on the radio or the television, I'm always hearing stories about white privilege conferences, about how the Caucasians in this country, we ought to hang our heads in shame for what we've done because we're so privileged over everybody else. And now it's reached, I think, a boiling point at colleges and high schools to where they're actually embarrassing white people for what they've accomplished. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I do agree. For the last couple of years, our organization has been talking about the White Privilege Conference. It just took place this last weekend in Philadelphia. There were 2,500 teachers and administrators and school personnel at that conference. And if you look at it, we wrote about it last week. And if you look at it, it's not, what they get into, when they talk about white privilege, what they're really talking about is the rule of law, the U.S. Constitution, capitalism. The crowd that espouses this theory, they believe those are the impediments to socialism, basically. I mean, when you hear them speak, that's what they want. They want socialism. And it's easy to kind of laugh at, the things that they say, as, they're sort of crazy and, all of that sort of thing. But what people need to understand is the fact that there were 2,500 educators in that room soaking that up. And they go back to their communities across America, and they implement that in the curriculum. That influences the way that they teach and train teachers, and all of those sorts of things. And it's a very destructive ideology if you believe in the free market, if you believe in the Constitution, if you believe that America is an exceptional country because of our rule of law and our Constitution and our economic system and our way of life.
Well, at a time in our society when supposedly, and it didn't work for the last 7.5 years, Obama was trying to bring America together, which he failed dearly. I mean, it's been a fiasco. Now with this white privilege and the teaching and trying to embarrass whites, and you've got this and I don't have it and I want yours, they are more in a chasm, I think, than ever before of division and racism in this country that's being perpetrated by the government. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think what's happening is you have this situation in schools now. You take St. Paul, for example. What we've been seeing is the growing ideology in schools is to hold kids accountable based on their race, based on the color of their skin, which I believe is just in and of itself and on its face racist. But as that plays out in the real world is that kids will be held to different standards based on their race. So, for example, in St. Paul, they found that at a disproportional rate, black kids were being suspended. And so they said, well, we've got to do something about that. And so the way they seek to remedy that is to not suspend as many black students. And so what that means is you can have kids that are very destructive, they don't want to be there, they're very rude, etc., literally assaulting teachers, but the teacher cannot suspend that student. And we've talked to teachers who have said, I was punched in the face, literally punched in the face. I send the student out of the classroom. 10 minutes later, they're back. Now, what sort of value is that teaching the student, regardless of the color of their skin? That's teaching them that there's no accountability. There's no accountability for their actions, for their words, for anything that they do. And so that's the sort of thing, that's the mentality that's being espoused at these sorts of conferences. And so what we document is that there are dozens and dozens and dozens of school districts and universities that spend millions of dollars a year on this sort of ideology, training teachers on it, and implementing it into the classroom, into the curriculum, and it's setting kids up to fail.
You know, Kyle, let me ask you this, and I'm almost out of time, but when you take a look at teachers as an entity today, I watched a kind of a documentary on television not too many days ago showing a lot of the teachers with hidden cameras, cell phone cameras in the classroom. They are absolutely, male and female, they are being abused. They are being absolutely subjected to terror and violence. What rights, honestly, of self-protection do teachers have in the classroom in America today?
Very few, and I think it largely depends on race, which I think is unfortunate. And it's what's interesting is we hear over the last several years, we've heard about zero tolerance policies where kids can't have guns and zero tolerance or weapons. And so zero tolerance policies have created these situations where kids have a Pop-Tart or a piece of paper or these other ridiculous situations where they kind of look like guns, and so they get suspended or expelled. But for whatever reason, we can't have zero tolerance when it comes to assaulting school personnel. It's absolutely mind-boggling. But that's the situation that these policies, these progressive policies have created, to the point where teachers feel in danger in their classrooms, and kids are being set up to fail because they think that they can behave this way in society and nothing will happen to them.
Yeah. I've only got a couple of minutes left here, and I've got to ask you this. Many, many, many school districts across the United States have had it with the wastage of their food program and the school lunch menus, and they said, I don't care what Mama Obama says, we're going to do it our way. What's going on that subject? Are they finally revolting and saying enough is enough with her blob on the plate type menu?
I think, to be honest, I think a lot of schools have just adapted to it. It doesn't appear, I saw a story maybe 2 weeks ago that the Republicans in the Senate had agreed to a few minor changes, but nothing radical, nothing serious. And so the Republicans have basically given in, and for whatever reason, they've decided not to do anything about this program. And so it continues. But I think it's gotten to the point where people have just come to live with it, or to pack their own lunches, which I think is a good thing. And but in terms of the program itself, nothing is really changing.
You are always welcome here. Kyle Olson with EAGnews.org, a great friend of this program with his knowledge. Thank you so much, and come back soon. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Kyle Olson, EAGnews.org. And this man has appeared on all the major talk shows across the United States, television, radio. I'm very blessed to have him many, many times on this program, talking about education, or the lack thereof, in America. Right now, let's get a weather forecast in here, and I can tell you the weather in one word: phenomenal. Oh my goodness, it is beautiful outside, and the weather is brought to us this hour by Lennox Home Comfort Systems through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric, offering rebates on qualified Lennox Home Comfort Systems, gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps. Yep, call them 678-0459. Learn how Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox can save you money. And right now, the lovely Gina with the weather.
Looks like sunny skies for today, and it's going to be nice. Slightly breezy winds out of the west, right around 8 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 71. Tonight, a low of 42. Tomorrow, sunny, a little bit on the breezy side, high of 76 with an overnight low of 45. Winds kicking up out of the southeast to about 10 to 15 miles an hour for Thursday and Friday. Under partly cloudy skies, high of 80 with overnight lows in the mid to upper 40s. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Now you're talking my kind of language. Did she say 80? Yes, she did. And I love warm weather. And it's on the way. Thank you very much. Weather brought to you by Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps. You and your family, you'll enjoy the comfort. Call them today. Ramsey's at 678-0459. Along with Lennox, saving you money. Absolutely. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, give me a jingle. I would appreciate it. I want to remind you again real quick that Lunch Bunch is going to be on this Thursday at 11:30 at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. And we just have a great big gathering of nice, friendly people. I love each and every one of them. They are so nice and so great to see every one of them every month. And our thanks go out also for the gift certificates that we're going to give away to Smith's Food King, along with Hanson Mortuary, Walmart, and Stokes Food. Thank you so much for your involvement in our Zeb's Lunch Bunch program once a month. And that's going to be at 11:30 this Thursday at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. By the way, while I'm waiting for your call to come rolling in here, come on, surprise me with your friendly voice. I want to remind you about Jeff McEwen running for Minidoka County Sheriff. As Sheriff, he says he will serve and protect the residents of Minidoka County by creating an agency that demands excellence. And he says that Minidoka County and the Sheriff's Office have the resources available to do the very best job that the citizens expect from their public servants. And he believes that Minidoka County should look at what's working and what is not and change accordingly. Jeff McEwen running for Minidoka County Sheriff, paid for by the Jeff McEwen Minidoka County Sheriff Committee, Anna McEwen, Treasurer. All right, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle on the old landline. There was a story yesterday in USA Today. Now, you know my feeling about the $15 an hour minimum wage. I'm against it, and why? I don't think that we should be making mandates of $15 an hour for low-level entry jobs into the workforce that absolutely are going to bankrupt and kill off many more jobs, because employers are going to say enough is enough, and they're going to eliminate various positions. You can't blame them. But here's what I was against yesterday in the paper of USA Today. They took the CEOs of various companies and they put a headline on the top of this newspaper story that said $15 an hour, ? Try 9,000 or more for these CEOs. And the only reason that this offended me was that they are trying to compare a CEO or an owner-manager of a company to a low-level entry job of $15 an hour. How dare they? You know, we don't know what these men and or women went through over their career to try to become the owner of the company, the manager of the company, the CEO of all the chain stores, whatever it might be. And for them to come out in the paper, and I'll just read this to you, the disparity between CEO pay and rank-and-file workers continues to be at extreme levels. Well, guess what, Buckwheat? It ought to be. You don't know what these men and women have gone through in their careers. Maybe they started scrubbing toilets. Maybe they absolutely were sweeping out a factory after hours all night on the night shift. You don't know. How dare anybody criticize someone for the money that they make without knowing the absolute rank and file work jobs that they had to do to get a level of success? I applaud success. I look at successful people that are really making it in this world and are hiring people and are creating jobs and creating an environment of success and goal-oriented business. But to condemn them and compare, it shows you how idiotic some people in the media are. The disparity between CEO pay and rank-and-file workers. Well, you jugheads, of course there's a disparity. And where in the world do you have the right to embarrass somebody that's made it in life, worked hard in life, and cut them down and say that they should be embarrassed because they're making more money? Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Well, good morning again. I got an uncle who started at a bank as a teller. And he worked and worked. And he moved up the ladder to a manager of a branch. And this was up in McCall.
Doug, real fast. I've only got a minute and a half left. Go real fast.
And when the janitor would go on vacation and couldn't clean the bank, my uncle would come in and clean the bank.
Absolutely.
And he was the manager.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of people we need, the people with drive that aren't above doing a job.
And I am sick and tired of the have-nots being so dadgum lazy they will not, and therefore they gripe and complain that everybody give them something.
Exactly.
Doug, I'm glad you called. Thank you, sir. God bless you, man. Thanks. I got to run. I'm a little bit late, but I want to get this in quickly. Cutting Edge Curbing at 424 16th Street in Rupert. Numbers to call, 808-3360 or 260-2583. Oh, my goodness, Sarah and Mike Baxter. They do a wonderful job with the curbing that will really add beauty and value to your property. Whether you want to have the curbing, whether it's slant or mower's edge or square or dome top, in different colors with different stamping on it. Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful. Check it out today for an estimate. Cutting Edge Curbing in Rupert, 808-3360. All right, coming up next hour on the program, we are going to have Dr. History, and today sitting in for Dr. History is Michelle Matthews, and she really has been involved in history and writing books, etc., over the years. And then at 10:30, the former Arizona Assistant Attorney General Rachel Alexander will be on our program. So you don't want to miss a minute of it. We've got a whole bunch left for this morning, and we're going to go to CBS News right after this good word from our station. Morning, morning, morning. Look outside and see that beautiful blue sky. I don't even see a cloud out there out my north window. It is fantabulous. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call the number 734-6969. Have a lovely lady that's going to be on our program for Dr. History. We're going to have that in just a moment. Stand by. But first of all, don't forget, Cassia County Sheriff candidate Scott Yates wants your vote. He's not a part of the establishment, and he wants to meet you at an open house on this Thursday, April 21st at the Burley Senior Citizen Center, anytime between 7 and 9 p.m., and talk about his candidacy and what he can do to serve you as Cassia County Sheriff. Don't forget, Scott Yates for Cassia County Sheriff, a candidate for this year's primary, paid for by Yates for Cassia County Sheriff. Treasurer Julie, let me see, I want to say the name right, Julie Jaime. There we go. All the different names and all the different candidacies, and I want to make sure I get the names right. Also, we want to say thank you very much to Shirley Halford Hubbard, Cassia County Commissioner, candidate, District 3. And you know, she's originally from Oakley and moved to the Burley area, and she absolutely loves people, and she needs to really be involved to to help not only the younger generation, but all people in Cassia County to get them more active in leadership and be the leaders of tomorrow. And she said they need to preserve agriculture and make sure it prospers in our community and in our county. So don't forget, Shirley Halford Hubbard, running for Cassia County Commission, District 3, paid for by the Halford Hubbard for County Commissioner, District 3, Lois Reinhardt, Treasurer. With that being said, we've got one other good word here before we get started here for this morning. And we want to acknowledge that we have with us the lovely Michelle Matthews taking over for Dr. History in just a moment. Don't forget Lennox Home Comfort Systems, whether it's a home air conditioner need, heat pump, or a gas furnace, you and your family will always enjoy the comfort. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric, and they're located at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, along with Lennox, saving you money. Our big thanks go out to Minnecasia Sales for being the sponsor of Dr. History. Oh my goodness, Zach and the rest of the crew, they've got all your lumber packages, they've got everything for you. All you have to do is just stop in and see them today. 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Minnecasia Sales bringing you Dr. History. And right now, Michelle Matthews, good morning, how are you?
Good morning, Zeb.
Nice to have you on the program.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
You were here, correct me if I'm wrong, just before Christmas, I think it was,
right,
back in November, and we were talking about a book that you had just finished called Hidden History. How did it sell?
It's still doing well. We had quite a customer base for Christmas and really appreciated that, and people were giving it as presents and stuff, so and coming back to buy more.
A stocking stuffer.
Yes, absolutely.
But you are sitting here just about 3 minutes ago during the news, and we were talking about what subject matter we were going to talk about on Dr. History this morning. You have a different point of view for a new book about maybe they're overlooking that possibly Diamond Field Jack did kill the sheep herders, and you're going to have a book on that.
Well, I think it's interesting. One thing, the thing that's very interesting about the whole deal about these murdered sheep herders is that the focus has never been on the sheep herders. They were the ones that were killed, but it's always been Diamond Field Jack's story.
That's true.
And in fact, most people couldn't even tell you the name of the sheep herders.
You got me.
Okay. Wilson and Cummins. From
Really?
Oakley, yes,
Really?
They were sheep herders from young men from Oakley, and so what I'd like to do is just take it from the perspective that maybe Diamond Field Jack was guilty.
Okay, let's stop right there. How do you, when you're doing a book like this, to create another historical viewpoint? Mm-hmm. How do you go about your research? What do you do from point A to point Z?
There are many old newspaper articles. The courthouse, the Cassia courthouse, because this was all Cassia County at the time,
right.
Has many documents and stuff from the court. The really fascinating thing is it was such a political trial. Big names, in the law business, Bora, and people that had more to lose,
right,
than just the trial.
Let me go back to the basics, though. I mean, when you're talking back in the 1800s, you're talking about the South Hills, the South Mountains, pretty wide open area, and there was a lot of conflict at that time in our history of the sheepmen versus the cattlemen, etc. And I've often wondered, was it loose lips by Diamond Field Jack, or who was it that really pointed the finger at Jack and said, "You're the one"?
Yeah, he was a braggart. He loved to talk about himself. And and he had shot someone before, so it was a natural, didn't kill him, but he did shoot someone. And so it was a natural, foregone conclusion that he was guilty in the beginning.
Oh, so he basically incriminated himself.
So, Okay. Yeah.
Now, is that in this area, or how did this thing progress?
Oh, he was all over the place. I don't think he was really so much aware that they were looking for him. I mean, when he was arrested and found, I think he was like in Nevada in jail.
Really? He was one of your real good citizens.
He'd shot a dog, I believe, was
shot
in jail.
A dog?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
there's some in this neighborhood that deserve that, though. You know that. But he was not your model citizen.
You know, I'm not sure. I'm really withholding judgment on a lot of this because, you know, he was found guilty.
Yeah.
And then two other men confessed to shooting the sheep herders in self-defense, and I'm putting air quotes around that.
Yeah.
But they still never let him out of jail.
Okay, so now these two other cowboys confessed to the shooting of the sheep herders, but yet at the same time, the law did not release Diamond-Field Jack.
Correct.
Why is that?
I don't think that they took the confession seriously.
Why would these guys step forward and said, we did it?
They were Sparks Harrell employees. One was Jim Bauer, who is the man who founded Artesian City, just down the road from us.
Right down the road from us, yep.
Mm-hmm. And he came here in about 1873 into the Shoshone Basin with Sparks Harrell cattle.
Right, it was big here in this valley.
Time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he moved to the Artesian area and homesteaded about 1876. And so started a large operation here. But he was still superintendent of the Sparks Harrell cattle company.
I guess my big question is, Michelle, why in the world would these two cowboys at that time, why would they want to step up and confess when they already knew that Diamond-Field Jack was on the hook?
Diamond-Field Jack was hired by John Sparks, who later became the governor of Nevada.
Right.
And that's the Sparks of Sparks Harrell.
Right.
So when he was hired, they told him, you know, that they would defend him at all cost if he ever had to shoot someone and was found guilty. That
really?
He would not be hung for it.
I see.
And so anyway, these guys, I believe, probably. Whether we can say conclusively or not. But anyway, I think that they had good reputations. As it was, they were tried and found innocent, or found innocent, said it was self-defense.
Let's go back to the original circumstances of the shooting itself. Mm-hmm. And you brought up a really good point at the beginning of our conversation. Everybody's heard of Diamond-Field Jack, and, you know, they've glorified his name and everything else over the years. But let's talk a little bit about the circumstances. Where were the sheep herders? What were they doing? What precipitated the shooting in the first place?
They were in the Shoshone Basin. I've been to one of the sites where the shooting could have taken place.
Could have taken place.
Yes, we're not really sure. There's a retired state senator, Max Black, who's done extensive research on this.
Right.
And I went out with him to the Shoshone Basin, and he showed me where they actually surveyed it and came up with an area that made sense. You know.
Now I'm going to ask you a dumb question. How would they ascertain where it was 200 years later?
Not quite 200 years.
Well, I'm sorry, 150. Pardon me. Okay. I'm really putting some age on all of us.
That's right.
But really, how would they ascertain that?
Well, one, when they did that, the race, the Diamond-Field Jack race, is all based on whether or not they could have got from the Boar's Nest to point A, B, or C in a certain amount of time. So using those three coordinates, basically, they came up with a location that they figured was.
Now, I've ridden
close.
that country extensively, horseback, and ran and moved a lot of cattle up there. And I also, from some of the old timers that used to ride up there, and we mentioned some of those names prior to the program, they had told me many, many stories about various locations as to where they thought it was, and one always came up in the conversation. So I think I know exactly where you're talking about. But there was a lot of animus against the sheep and the cattle business, weren't there?
Sure.
There was a lot of friction going on back then, right here in this valley.
Sure.
And you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, basically, the sheepmen thought that the the cattlemen thought that the sheep destroyed the land.
Yeah.
If you look at the weight of a cow in muddy ground, they can sure do a number on it too. So it really was a competition over the grazing.
Was Diamond Field Jack of a personality that basically a lot of people liked him, and he kind of grew on people, if you will. Is that basically one of the reasons you think why his life was spared and why a lot of people said he was innocent?
That's a very good point. He did talk to people through the jail cell, out his window, kids as they walked by going to school, and so it's very, kind of a split personality there, I think.
What do you know through your research so far as to why he might have done it? I guess all the particulars. I mean, what have you learned so far that maybe you didn't know before?
Well, I don't know necessarily that he, I think part of it wasn't his personality. I think he took his job very seriously. He was hired. He was a hired gun.
Yeah,
that was his job, and he was supposed to scare people off. But apparently they got into a scuffle, and the two were killed.
You and I were talking about this, and I got to do a commercial in just a second, but I want you to elaborate on this a little bit. You and I were talking before the program this morning that history has a chance many, many times, whether it's General Custer, whether it's Billy the Kid, whomever, to kind of create its own image and its own story. How do we really know the truth about history? I'm going to ask you that right off.
I'd like to say that we don't. It's, being in the newspaper business myself, I know the importance of accurate reporting.
Right.
Because in 100 years, if you read that newspaper and there was an error in it, you're not going to go back to the next day's correction. Like we do now. So 100 years later, if it's not correct, it will be. It will be.
But the news reports, I'll tell you what, I'll ask this question in just a moment. I got to get this in. Mini-Cash Sales with our dear friend Zach and the rest of the crew over there, all your lumber packages. You want to remodel, you getting some tax money back? Well, you deserve it. And you're going to remodel your house or maybe do something as a porch on the outside, whatever it might be. They have all the lumber packages for you. And don't forget, too, if you're going to redo that roof, leaking, huh? Need new shingles. They've got all the metal or asphalt shingles, and they can help you with the contractor to install and do the job that you need. Just please stop in and see them. Mini-Cash Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport, with our dear friend Zach and the rest of the crew. Number to call, 878-2091. Newspaper stories back in those times. Now, you're a dedicated journalist, and you have been all your life. Do you trust the journalists of the days gone by with the newspapers and everything? Did they have a code of ethics similar to today where you knew that what they wrote was going to be 99% of the truth?
No.
Okay.
No. They were very, if you look back at even the Times News from, 105 years ago, back then, it was very editorial. Most of the articles did not have bylines. You didn't know who wrote the story.
Really?
And it was very opinionated.
Really?
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of old pictures of this area, and I'm not trying to get away from your book with Diamond Field Jack, but this all plays into it. There were a lot of old pictures, especially of the forming and formulation and growth of Twin Falls and other cities, and the photographer's name, Busby, was that
Bisbee.
it? Bisbee. That helps add a lot of credence to your stories, too, doesn't it?
It does. However, he didn't always date his things correctly. A lot of them would be dated later. He would mark a date. In fact, there's like photos of the Twin Falls High School being built next to the courthouse that have the wrong date on them. So you know, it's you really have, you can't look at something and just say yes, that's correct.
You know, and the photos of whether it's a Bisbee photo of showing going down into the canyon or whether it's Diamond Field Jack himself. Now, I'm not sure it was the same photographer, but did not Bisbee take a shot of Diamond Field sitting in a chair while he was in jail? I've seen that photo many, many times.
Bisbee did not come until 1906
I see.
to this area.
Okay. But what have you learned about Diamond Field Jack that maybe preceding books didn't have?
I don't know that I've learned anything new. It's more the perspective that you take on it. I think a lot of people start out with the knowledge that he was pardoned, and they translate that into being innocent.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he was innocent.
So what about his attorneys, and what about the defense attorney and the prosecuting attorney? Did they ever come up with an ABCD, you're guilty because of this type thing, or what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, it was a fierce battle over, but it was a political battle. Both sides were looking for political power, and they wanted to make a name for themselves. So Diamond Field Jack, they weren't fighting for Diamond Field Jack or against him. They were out to make a name for themselves, and neither was willing to concede.
Did Diamond Field Jack, what was his real name? I can't remember offhand. It left me all of a sudden. I knew
Yeah,
it.
if you'd...
But anyway...
I'll think of it in a couple
But
of
did
seconds
he
here.
ever, in his life after being incarcerated up at Albion, did he ever have any memoirs or any diaries or any written accounts of his life, or is it just basically those that knew him or of him?
You know, I'm not sure if he did have any of his own writing. And that's one of the problems with history, is that when you're living it, you don't realize its importance while it's happening.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of times that I will look at something for one of my hidden history stories, and I'll look it up in the newspaper archives. It's like, this is important. It's got to be here.
Yeah.
And it's not there. The import of that becomes obvious later.
Yeah.
And
now, Diamond Field Jack was at one time an extremely wealthy man, was he not?
Yeah, yes, he did. It was funny because his name, Diamond Field, came from when he was in Idaho and someone had tricked him into buying a diamond claim.
Yeah.
And of course, there were no diamonds there, and so that's how his name became Diamond Field Jack. It was a joke. Later, he did go to Nevada after he was released here and did become very wealthy.
And then he lost everything.
That's what I hear.
Lost everything, and of all things, for a person that was a prominent figure in the news, I'm not saying good, bad, or evil, I'm just saying prominent figure in the news, to end his life like what happened to him, stepping off a curb and having a taxi run over him, that's a little weird, isn't it?
Well, and not only that, but the taxi didn't kill him outright. He died later.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of a pathetic story.
On your research, I would imagine that when you're doing a book on reality, not fiction, but reality, and you're trying to piece all this stuff together to put together a book, it takes an awful lot of study, and like you said, going to the courthouse and looking at various memos and recorded messages, etc. Holy smokes, this takes a long time, doesn't it?
You know, it does if you approach it that way. I use my gut in a lot of this. In fact, I give a lot of talks to clubs and stuff, and I'll explain to people when, say you've got 50 people in a room, and 2 of them jump up and get into a fist fight and then run out the door, you're going to have 48 different versions of what just happened.
That's really true.
Right then. And, now add 100 years to that.
Oh, boy.
So that's what I deal with. You can't go through every story and piece it all together that way. So I really rely on my gut to, if it makes sense, if it feels right, I'll go with that story.
Right here where we are today, do you feel that history has been fairly accepted in education, whether it's the old artesian city or whether it has to do with Shoshone Falls, Twin Falls, and all the pioneers coming through here on the Oregon Trail? Has there been adequate stories and representation of what really happened?
There are popular stories there, but very much of what really happened, just the day-to-day lives, and that's the stuff that is deemed, unimportant and kind of ignored. But later, it's those intimate stories about different families or locals, pioneers that attract people to that story.
I am fascinated. I got a minute left here, but I'm absolutely fascinated with your stories and your pictures that you have in the newspaper, and then also your book. But this area, from the mountains all the way going west, just a little bit, 8 miles from us, Stricker Cabins, and the history and the human misery, the human suffering that took place trying to cross the Oregon Trail, and it was right here. And I just wonder if adequately that's been covered.
Probably not. Most people look at it from a larger perspective, and they don't think about the smaller view of where exactly that Oregon Trail went. They look on a map and they see a line. That's a 2-dimensional map. Reality is in 4 dimensions if you add time to that.
That's
because time is a huge element. But you've got canyons. You can't look at a map and say, oh, they went a straight line. They had to go. There were many obstacles, especially through here with very deep ravines. So, the real specifics haven't really been noted.
I agree. Would you come back?
Sure.
We didn't even cover a thumbnail on this thing. I appreciate it. Michelle Matthews, my neighbor, actually, and she is an excellent journalist and a great writer. She had the book Hidden History, and now, have you got a title for the new book?
Oh, no, not yet.
Not yet, but when you do come back, please.
Okay,
all right. Thank you for being on our program.
You bet.
Dr. History, and brought to you by Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Number to call, 878-2091. Real quick, I want to remind you, on Thursday, we have another segment called Cassia County School Days, and our thanks go to 2 of our sponsors. We really appreciate them. A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, and, of course, all the spring and summer fashions are there, along with all the Cherokee scrubs and all the baby registries and the baby furniture. Stop in at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley, along with Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland in Burley for your outpatient surgeries, and they can save you money on life-saving colonoscopies, knee surgeries, sinus surgery. Please call them today, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you School Days in Cassia County on Thursdays. We're going to take a quick break and go to our main studios. I'll be right back in 3 minutes.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much, and welcome back to our last half hour. We'll have our guest on in just a second. Don't forget, re-elect Jay Heward, Cassia County Sheriff. Born and raised in Burley, went to Burley High School and Idaho State University. Been in the police business and work of the police for over 36 years. Knowledge of the job through experience and hard work, and he knows what to do in emergency situation. And he also knows his job and his constitutional responsibilities and wants to remain working as a hard-working Cassia County Sheriff for Cassia County. Re-elect Jay Heward for Cassia County Sheriff, paid for by the committee by Steve Westfall, Treasurer. Once again, we want to remind you we have a new segment on our program. It's going to be heard on Thursdays, twice a month, and it's called Our Second Amendment, sponsored by Red's Trading Post, 203 Fifth Avenue South in Twin Falls. Ryan Horsley and his crew, always with the best of firearms, ammunition, and all the accessories. Since 1936 in historic Old Town Twin Falls, remember Red's Trading Post, 203 Fifth Avenue South in Twin Falls. This next lady has been on my program numerous times, and I absolutely applaud her for an excellent article about Muslim illegals and refugees now flowing into the United States, and the question, are radicals among them? Good morning, Rachel Alexander. How are you?
Well, I'm not Rachel.
Oh!
Yeah, this is her husband Brian pinch hitting for her, and I've got a lot of political experience. I don't write professionally like she does, but you'd be surprised to know a lot of the stuff she writes, she bounces things off of me a lot. So I know her repertoire quite well.
Now, you know something? I got to tell you, when you started speaking, my headsets kind of stood out on my ears, and I thought, oops, what did I do wrong? I apologize, sir. I didn't know that you were going to be on the program.
And by the way, I grew up in southeastern Idaho. My mom's from Burley.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, I'm just a stone's throw down the road. It's good to have you on the program this morning.
Thanks.
Well, now let me ask you this in regards to.
What do you want to roll with?
I just want to talk a little bit about this article because it's very serious about what's happening not only here but also over in Europe right now with the absolute flood of refugees going in and taking over different communities and different areas. The gist of this article is that we are not as safe with Obama's letting more and more of these people into our country. What are your thoughts about this article that your wife wrote about the refugees coming in and possibly having radical thoughts?
Well, the first problem with this process, I understand, is how the vetting works. And my understanding is the vetting starts with being done by the UN, and the UN is doing that right there locally on the ground where these refugee camps are. The majority of the people doing this vetting are Muslims themselves. So who do you think they're letting in? That's your first problem.
Absolutely.
The second problem, then, is how the United States is handling that and how we're willing to just carte blanche accept what the UN is handing us. No questions asked, and they're going to come right on in. If you look at what's going on in Sweden, I understand that, 1 in 4 women now have been, basically will or have been sexually assaulted in the country now. And I understand that similar occurrences are occurring in Germany and are on the rise in Germany and some of these other Western European countries where they've taken a lot of these immigrants.
You know, you said your first name was Brian, didn't you, sir? I want to call you the right name. Pardon me.
Right, yep.
Okay. You know, the problem we have here is we are one of the unloading areas, if you will, in southern Idaho, along with our state capital up at Boise, Twin Falls and Boise. And we're being duped by our local refugee center at our college and also our Times News newspaper. Oh, these people have all been vetted. They've got all the paperwork. We know everything about them. Brian, how in the world can anybody say anything so stupid and naive when these people are flooding out of their country? There's no computer records. There's no courthouse to validate. How in the world are they leading us to believe that they're all vetted and properly know who they are?
Well, we should just trust the powers that be because they're so good at everything. I mean, look. Yeah, there's no reason to trust this completely. I mean, do I think there's good people amongst the refugees? Absolutely. But I think that there are some problem people basically being brought over in a way to further the jihad, so to speak, into Western culture. And that's the problem is we're taking everything, including the poison pill, and we have no way of really trying to vet these people.
You know, let me ask you this in adjacency with that last question I asked you about the just coming in. Why, in your opinion, Brian, have you and your wife talked about this, I'm sure, why is Obama and this administration so committed to increasing the numbers coming here to the United States?
Hey, this is all part of fundamental transformation. Let's fundamentally transform the United States of America. Let's take us from being the world's power and make us lower, make us more like all the third world countries. Simple enough. That's really what it's all about.
You know, when you look at the situation, though, of the resettlement, and they're coming in, most all are Muslims with a different ideology, a different religion, not fitting into our culture, not fitting into our communities, I just think we're asking for a multiplicity of problems. I'd like you to expand on that a little bit. Did we lose him, Wheels? Evidently, the call... Wheels, try to get him back on the air, can you? I'm not hearing anything. Hello, Wheels. Are we coming in over there? I don't know what happened. Deanne, are we still on the air out there, or did we get cut off? All of a sudden, I heard kind of a squeak on the phone line, and we're checking it out right now. We're checking it out right now to see if we're still on the air, and if not, we'll make reparations to get back. Are we there, Wheels?
I'm here with you. I'm trying to figure stuff out.
All right, we're trying to get the caller back on the air. We had a problem, evidently, with our illustrious phone line, and hopefully we can get Brian back on the air here with us again. Brian, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yep.
Oh, okay, good. I was asking you the question a moment ago, why are we being subjected by the Obama administration to take more increasing numbers? Originally, they had talked about 10,000. Now they're talking about increasing the Muslim Syrian refugees to maybe 60,000 or more. Why do you think this administration is so committed to doing this?
Well, again, this goes back to what Obama said when he was campaigning in 2008 about I'm going to fundamentally transform the United States of America. What better way than importing everyone that they can, especially from the Middle East, of Muslim, Arab, ethnic origins, to the United States in large, massive amounts, put them in places, don't really integrate them in and have them assimilate properly in society, and just drop a large amount in, and boom, let's see what happens. Let's see how much we fundamentally transform the United States of America.
Your wife had written in this latest article a paragraph in there, a very interesting paragraph about ISIS coming into the United States from Mexico. And I've had many, many guests on my program that have told me about the infiltration of different jihadi training camps in the United States, etc. Elaborate a little bit on that as to what's happening down on the Texas border right now. Not again. Gina, if you're over there trying to help Wheels, I lost my caller again. I don't know if it's the phone.
When we went through the academy over 7 years ago, they were warned about infiltration of terrorist groups back then, and the FBI told them, hey, if you see these people, call us and let us know. I hear it's even worse now. So we have more and more people crossing the border into the United States illegally, where we've got large swaths of land that are completely unmonitored. You may or may not get a Border Patrol vehicle to go by every few hours or not. It could be half a day before one goes by. But they're largely left unprotected, and these people are able to walk right over, come right in the country. Who knows what they're bringing with them? I mean, who knows? It could be anything from weapons to maybe even a suitcase nuke, dirty bomb. We don't know. We really don't know. All we know is a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors, and, you know, if any of these things ever come true, we're going to find out how bad it really was, or will be.
You know, let me ask you, Brian, Speaker Paul Ryan of Wisconsin has included funding for Obama's refugee resettlement plan in this big omnibus spending bill. And Ryan, being a member of the Republican Party, helping out Obama with the relocation of all these refugees, what are your thoughts? Why aren't the politicians, why aren't our senators and our congressmen working for what we want instead of helping others come into this country that we don't know who they are?
You know, I'm not sure what to tell you about that, honestly. I quite frankly, that's something I would like to ask one of my two former bosses, Congressman Schweikert and Congressman Salmon, both here from Arizona, who are in the House of Representatives, because I don't know what to make of that. I really don't. I have no idea why.
Now, many states that have received a lot of the Syrian refugees, like Michigan, California, Pennsylvania, and Illinois, now they are having second thoughts, like what's happened in Minnesota also, around the downtown area of St. Paul and also Minneapolis. This is a trend that I'm very concerned about, and your wife, when she wrote the article, I think she also had a lot of concerns about the growing refugee program, also connected to Islam. Final thoughts on this, please, before I let you go.
Well, yeah, again, the big problem is you're bringing massive quantities of these people in, large numbers. You're dumping them into an area, and then they're not really integrating into society. I don't see a good, cogent plan for how these people assimilate in the country. And to start with, we don't even know what a lot of their intentions are. I don't know if you ever saw the video, I think it was Steven Crowder did years ago, in or around Minneapolis, where he went around and interviewed Muslims and asked them, "Oh, do you like the United States?" "Oh, yeah, I like living here." "Oh, what do you think of Sharia law?" "Oh, Sharia law is great." That ought to, if you see that video, watch it. It ought to give you some pause as to what maybe is going on here and where we're headed.
Absolutely. Well, listen, our best to Rachel and yourself, Brian, for filling in this morning. I appreciate it. God's blessings to you, and thank you for your time on the program this morning. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Hey, it was great. You're welcome.
All right, sir. Thank you. I didn't expect to not have Rachel Alexander on the program this morning, and her husband filling in, and I apologize. Wheels, jump on your microphone for a minute. I think that was the problem of their cell phone cutting off, was it not?
Yes, sir, because on his end, I was hearing a lot of, sounding like his phone was, like you said, cutting off, and, there was sounded like a bad connection. You know,
what I'm going to do, I think I'll start my campaign next Monday. I think I'm going to start it first of all in Cassia County, then go to Minidoka County, and then hopefully around the state of Idaho, and then also the entire nation. A confiscation of all cell phones that are used on radio, television shows, and throw them in the Snake River. None of them work very well, do they?
They don't, especially for radio. So from my personal opinion, I would not go wrong with that.
What did you do over there besides start sweating profusely when all of a sudden he cut off? I didn't hear anything. Everything went dead here, and I'm sitting here all by myself going, hello.
Well, and my heart kind of just dropped into my stomach because it was like you were asking for me, and I was saying, I'm here. And I thought, like, you had completely lost me on top of it with him, and he was still on the phone, too. So, yeah, that scared me a little.
All right, well, as long as we've got a problem rectified and it wasn't anything with our equipment, fine. But I do hate cell phones. Right now, we've got to get the weather forecast on here, and then we'll welcome some more phone calls. And again, I apologize. When I make a booking with somebody to come on the program, I expect that person. I had no clue that Rachel was not going to be available this morning, and I'm sorry for that. And caller, just 1 minute. I'm going to do the weather, and I'm going to get right to you, so do not hang up. I promise I'll be right with you. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Your hometown meat cutter, Scarrows Meats. Here's Gina with the weather.
Looks like sunny skies for today, and it's going to be nice. Slightly breezy winds out of the west, right around 8 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 71. Tonight, a low of 42. Tomorrow, sunny, a little bit on the breezy side, high of 76 with an overnight low of 45. Winds kicking up out of the southeast to about 10 to 15 miles an hour for Thursday and Friday. Under partly cloudy skies, high of 80 with overnight lows in the mid to upper 40s. That's your weather for Zeb Duran.
Brought to you this hour by my friend Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew at Scarrows Meats. Delicious. Everything. Changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Caller, thank you. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, I've been very busy this morning, and I wanted to be able to talk to your guest, but I obviously missed it because I've been in and out. But my point was this. Yesterday there was a guest on a show somewhere, and I don't remember who he was, but he said that right now Western Europe is close to 10% Muslim. And he says when a country becomes 25% Muslim, the country is then lost because the Muslim religion literally forces itself on to that population.
Well, it was right here on this program, Randy. Randy, it was right here on this program because we had Dr. Alvin Schmidt from St. Louis, Missouri on our program, and he went through those facts about Islam and the encroaching Muslim problem in the European countries that's going to eventually come over here. So it was right here yesterday on our program.
Yes, maybe. I see. Well, it's been a busy week. So, but my point is, like he says that Europe is lost. At this rate, Europe will no longer be able to save itself. And it's not like we can run the Nazis back to Germany because they want to go home to the motherland. You see? They aren't going to go home to the motherland because they don't want to go back to the hell that they have been living under. They want us to suffer the way they have suffered, and they are going to shove it down our throats come hell or high water. And I say to myself, when do we realize, or we're able to stop our administration from shoving these refugees down our throats and ruining America forever?
Well, okay, let's back up just for a second. I said this during Frosty's interview this morning, and I'll say it again with your phone call. Last night, I saw the end of the Greta Van Susteren news hour, and she looked at the camera with her final thoughts, the last 60 seconds that she kind of sums up the different top story of the day. And she looked at the camera and she said, you know what? Obama and our government don't give a damn about us. And quite frankly, those are harsh words, but she, and I can quote her on that, you can look it up, she brought out the fact that, yes, I agree with her. They don't give a damn about us. They don't give a care about what our feelings are, what we don't want, what we do want. They're just forcing us to accept this, and I, for one, Randy, I'm not going to.
One more thing. And I have this factually. You know, Mr. Chobani, I love him to death because he brought 400 jobs. There's a lot of companies around this valley that have lots of people working for him, not just Chobani, okay? So we appreciate what he's done. But the miraculous rise of this man who came to America with a Muslim background, who had nothing. And he was able to get $1 million loan that you and I would have never got in our wildest dreams. And so now he has done some good things with it. But if what I've been told is true at Chobani and Twin, that they are literally firing Hispanic workers, not white people, but Hispanic workers, and replacing them. And these people have been doing their job and replacing them with Muslims. I'm telling you, they're going to hit the fan. And I don't know, Zeb. This just doesn't get better. And every day, even though the sun's shining and it's a beautiful day, the clouds are gathering.
Well, the clouds are gathering, not only over this issue, but many issues. And that's why this next election is so very, very important for people to stand up and say enough is enough. Randy, thank you so much for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got another note here to get on, and then we'll take some more calls before we leave the program this morning. And again, I apologize. I had nothing to do with it. I don't think we did at the station either. Losing the call with our guest that we had at the beginning of the 10:30 hour. It just happens sometimes on cell phones. Don't forget, Tim Darrington is running for Cassia County Commissioner, District 3. A lifelong resident of Cassia County, is a farmer and a rancher and steward of the land. He wants to provide good roads, safe environment, and a great quality of life for the citizens of Cassia County. And he encourages job opportunities, new industry, and smart growth. And he wants what's best for the citizens citizens of Cassia County now and for future generations. Vote for Tim Darrington, Cassia County Commissioner, District 3, paid for by the Darrington for Commissioner Committee, Gail Erickson, Treasurer. All right, we got a lot of good folks that are running for offices, and we'll have many more on the weeks to come. Hey, don't forget, too, our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and serving is the key word right there. And I want to mention to you that they've got a great big tire sale going on right now with many, many, many of the top tires and the most demanded of the tires for the cars, the pickups, the SUVs on sale, like the Ultra Z900 on sale right now for your automobiles, all-season design, and up to an 80,000-mile warranty depending on your driving conditions and habits. And also for your SUVs and pickups, the Proxys ST2. Ooh, all-season traction and superior handling. Convenient credit always available at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Front-end alignments, the best. Brake service, the best. Shocks and struts, the best. Batteries, the best. You stop in and work with the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Tomorrow on the program, let me get my book here. We've got a really jam-packed list of good people. Open forum tomorrow morning from 8 to 9 o'clock, and I've got a couple of pertinent stories that I want you to comment on. Then at 9:06, we're going to, via the telephone line, hopefully, go back to Indianapolis, Indiana, and have Dave Bego on the air. And then at 9:30, I've worked and finally got him pinned down to a definitive time tomorrow to call into our program. Idaho Senator Jim Risch. United States Senator Jim Risch is going to be on the program tomorrow. And then, of course, at 10:06, we're going to have the monthly report for the Idaho fishing game. Kelton Hatch is going to be on the air. So don't miss that tomorrow. A lot of interesting people. Once again, we've had some calls and people said, oh, when's Lunch Bunch? Well, Lunch Bunch is going to be this Thursday at 11:30. Yep, day after tomorrow at Denny's Restaurant. And again, we want to say thank you for our gift certificate giveaways to Smith's Food, Hanson Mortuary, Walmart, Stokes Grocery Store. We appreciate each and every one of those folks. And thank you. Be there at 11:30 on Thursday for Zeb's Lunch Bunch at Denny's in Burley. We're going to wrap it up and put it away for today. God bless you and your family. The way things were, the way things ought to be. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.